I wanted to call because I listened to the sort of force the vote or part of the force the vote town hall as much as I could take. We did it on January a few days ago, but
Yeah.
it's not about Jimmy Dore either. It's more about the fact that I was really bothered by a lot of the things that, particularly Brianna Joy Gray has been posting on Twitter, but also saying in the town hall, and that she's largely she promotes Jimmy's behavior when he viciously attacks AOC, but also people in these town halls who disagree with him by not calling it out, and Katie Halper as well. But also they've taken to just straight up lying about DSA and their stance on this. They're saying that there was this email that went out to hundreds of thousands of people that a majority of people supported force the vote as a strategy, and that there's this tension between the rank and file members and the leadership, which is just not true. But also some of the tactics that they're taking it's kind of I don't want to say Trumpian, but they're distorting the truth in a way that is and making allies with these conspiracists online that are, it's very disturbing to me. They're going down a road that I think is very disturbing. I don't know if you followed this stuff in the last week.
I mean, I'm going to say that I have not followed it too much. There's been a couple of videos that people obviously have sent to me, and that I saw. I mean, look, as far as I'm concerned, it is not. I understand why people would take issue with other people being on a call with Jimmy as he espouses conspiracy theories or he's abusive to the other people on the call. And my attitude towards that is essentially, if people want to be associated with that, they're more than willing to. If they think in the long run that's going to be helpful to them, good luck. I have, I think, just about. I think the line of carnage that Jimmy Dore leaves in his wake is pretty significant, and I think your credibility is damaged by associating with him. Now, people are like, "Why are you associating Jimmy Dore so much with this thing?" Look, I've invited people who are associated with that with the pro argument to come on. They declined. I'm willing to talk to some of those people about it. It's sort of over now. And now I think we move into the phase where Jimmy Dore is still just playing out his anger towards, a now sophomore congressperson who's been a sophomore for a day or two, or probably will, I think sophomore for a day or two, that they're not exerting their power over the entire Congress to get something done. I personally think that the rollback of the PAYGO stuff is really important.
It's huge.
And that, and that's what it is. If other people want to host this and they find it in their best interest and they think it's healthy, I think people have the ability to assess them as, on their own. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I can tell you this. There was a couple of clips that were sent to me that I think were really problematic. This is one right here, which I think is indicative of the limitations of Jimmy Dore, period. And I did. So it did tell me that apparently both Jimmy and Bree acknowledged that this was going nowhere until I came out with a tepid video saying, and I still think it was a good idea to leverage the vote. And it happened. The vote was in fact leveraged. And at the time, I don't remember exactly what I said. This was a month or two ago. I can't remember when it was. I said, Jimmy Dore's got this idea. I am a little bit hesitant to do it because I know the guy's an idiot. But the idea is, somewhat decent. And that is leverage the vote for Nancy Pelosi He wants to do it for a vote for Medicare for all. I think at the time I said, like, I'm not sure that's the best thing to do it for. It might be for a committee seat or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure that was the gist of it. And I spoke to some people subsequent to that, people who, are just on background, were like, there's stuff that's going on. And I was like, they should try and make it more public that we can leverage it. And they're like, I don't think they know how to do that. And which, I can understand, like, how do you leverage the rollback pay-go rules? I mean, there's ways. I think they could do some work on that. And so I dropped it. And then the next thing I know, Jimmy is using it as a way of basically unmasking AOC, who by any definition is the most left, maybe not the most left. Maybe there's one or two other people who are left to her. I don't know. But we have 435 people in Congress. And I think certainly Jamie could, and I think we all could, to a certain extent, talk about the complete limitations of what we can expect someone to be elected there. But within that, right, they're Congress people. Within that, they operate in that sphere. There is no doubt that there is anybody to the left. Maybe there's one or two people, I don't know, you can make your own assessment, then the squad in the House. That's just the fact. They may not be as left as you want them to be. Maybe they're more left than you want them. It doesn't matter. That's just the reality. And to say that they're because they don't follow your strategy, which again, I haven't heard like a whole sort of like rollout for the strategy. I've listened to all the things. Like, I get it. We're going to find out who doesn't want Medicare for all. We're going to primary them, which is incidentally exactly why AOC has less power and doesn't have that seat on that important committee, the Energy and Commerce Committee, is because she was challenging them. She was the tip of the spear, as it were, in terms of challenging establishment Democrats where possible, with the means that they have at their disposal through Justice Democrats, et cetera. And then presumably you challenge these people. I don't know how, if you've debilitated or undercut the power that AOC has, you're going to challenge them because she's the biggest vehicle for that in the party.
She fundraises for all of these primary challenges, and yet
without a doubt
that she's a shill.
But she's a shill now.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, there's going to be, I guess, the YouTubers are going to be able to challenge across the country. You're going to take the 45,000 people or 50,000 people who have signed up for Force the Vote, and they're all going to get out there and mobilize. They won't go to a rally, but they'll get out there and mobilize and challenge people in all these districts. They're going to develop the whole mechanism and apparatus to challenge those people. Then when they've knocked off those people, right, then you're going to have a house full of Democrats who are going to presumably then vote for Africa. I mean, this is
already a multi-year strategy is what pisses me off about this, right? That they're saying that because we don't think this is the smartest way to allocate power, we're selling.
You're responsible for everybody who doesn't have Medicare for all tomorrow. Right, but this is already like
AOC's responsible. Right. But you guys are already taking a long-term strategy, but she leveraged it for pay-go, so it could happen more quickly, or other progressives did.
Well, it opens up the door and it gets one obstacle out of the way, because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a series of getting rid of obstacles. Okay, so wait a second. So we find out the vote happens. We find out who the 120, let's say 105, 110, 130, whatever it is, Democrats who don't want Medicare for all. How are we going to, what do we need to do to primary them based upon Medicare for all? And this is, I'm now like in the world of Force the Vote. Well, what do you need to do, Josh, if you're going to do that? You need to what? What is the word that I'm looking for? It starts with an O. Organize, right? Here is Jimmy Dore just a day ago, I guess, or I don't know when he said this, about that organization. This was this is yesterday. Here it is. Listen to this.
I'm calling out the left, the people who claim to want this fight their whole life. It's here, and they ran for cover. So I'm calling them out and shaming them. Shame on the DNC, shame on the DSA, shame on the nurses union. Where the fuck are you? I don't need you to be my friend. Where the fuck? I'm asking you to answer for your own self. Shame on you. This is a big clarifying moment for the left right now. The people on the left aren't fighters. That's the problem. They're not fighters.
That's what he wanted to say.
The squatters they're not fighters.
The
DSA should be banging they should be fucking hounding the squad right now to do this. They should be hounding them. They should be showing up at their houses, doing rallies. They're not doing anything.
They should be showing up.
We've been organizing. We need to organize more. We do not need to organize more for Medicare for All. It's organized. The whole country's for it. We do not need, don't let anyone tell you that. We are organized. Now it's time to threaten the people who are in power that if they don't do it, you're going to hold them accountable. That's the only thing. Do you see how AOC is bending herself in a pretzel? Now she's scared. Why? Because I'm right.
Honestly.
AOC's terrified.
She's terrified. If this guy wasn't such a total moron, I would think that he was like nefarious. But he's just a moron idiot and maybe a little bit juiced up. I don't know. But here, put up that here's what the nurses union are doing. Now it's organizing. Now I don't know how you're supposed to scare.
You don't have to organize.
How do you scare AOC if you're not going to organize? Like Jimmy Dore does not vote in the Bronx. He doesn't vote in North Brooklyn. He doesn't vote in Queens. And here is the nurses and Healthcare Now, and they are organizing. Now, I know it's disgusting and stupid because everybody's for it. And the reason why it's not happening is because the 5 members of the squad are not using magic to make everybody bend to their will. I mean, this is just...
No, it's not. The magic is the second most important part. The most important part is not going on my fucking show.
Well, yes, of course. If
all it took was for people to know and support Medicare for All, Bernie would have been the nominee because 87% of Democrats support Medicare for All.
But they don't see it as urgent enough to take to the streets and primary Democrats and punish them based on their vote yet. What we need to do is take the time and take that kind of energy, unite as leftists, and spend the next 2-4 years organizing and building up the strategy behind getting Medicare for All into state parties and into state representatives' minds, and then also into Democrats who may be amenable to this kind of thing. And then strategically, once we've gotten rid of PAYGO and those obstacles, do this kind of thing. It's not something that's going to happen by the fly of your pants because some online loudmouth leftist does it. And people who I've respected in the past have gone along with it. He's an abusive person. And I feel like, we talked about the merits of the strategy in and of itself, but the fact that they originated from him should give a lot of people pause.
Well, it's not even about the strategy anymore. Here's the thing. Like, this started out as a tactical debate between mostly left liberals, social democrats, progressives, whatever. And it has quickly transformed into something that has very little connection to that whatsoever. People are not engaging the way you engage as an organizer. They're engaging the way you engage with a cult leader. And they've already set up an NGO corporate structure, by the way, real socialist guys, real revolutionary. And I'm afraid of this on a number of levels, right? Because in the grand scheme of things, I don't really think it matters. Despite how many people I see being mean in my mentions, it's not actually that many people in the real world. But I do worry that this is channeling people who are like legitimately pissed off and might have otherwise become effective organizers in the DSA or whatever into this like weird spectacle culty way of doing politics that is not politics at all. The DSA not your enemy, by the way. Closest thing to a socialist party that we've had in this country in God knows how long. But the thing about DSA is, if you care so much about what tactics we're pursuing, you have to join the DSA and you have to come to a meeting about it. And you're not allowed to yell at people when they disagree with you. And you should not be engaging with your comrades the way you engage with some like asshole neoliberals on Twitter,
Yeah, Jimmy wanted a referendum on the squad and AOC because, like, this whole get on the page about Medicare for all, where were you in the primary? Because I think there's actually a problem where people did like Medicare for all, but they were confused about saying everybody supports it. People thought Joe supported it. And there should have been one left candidate. And Jimmy Dore had a lot to say about Elizabeth Warren, but Tulsi was the exact same thing. It was a distraction from the real guy who could have fought for it. So yeah, I mean, I agree. He never really wanted to see any kind of exercise of power. He wanted a referendum so he could say, these people are as foolish as I've been.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it also shows how the limits of left-wing populism, right? When you don't have a systemic critique of the system and of capitalism, it leads you to a kind of conspiratorial thinking where you just blame individuals, whoever you think is standing in the way. And I'm afraid that this is going to pivot to some sort of like vague populism, like the 5 Points movement in Italy, that's closer to the kind of like right-wing party that we see in Europe that combines vague hatred of elites, right? Populism is an extremely nebulous thing with a vague social democratic program with, more reactionary elements, which I think have already been welcomed into this movement.
I just need to add this. The following has been paid for by MSNBC.
Yes, obviously. Well, we actually,
I'm contractually required to do that.
We get our callers. We get them the MSNBC talking points before they call in, and first we let them check by PYT, then MSNBC, then here, and then we all work together. Right? You got your memo this morning.
Yep, I read my memos every day from MSNBC when they tell me how to fight for communism. That's who's giving me my marching orders.
Josh, appreciate the call. See you at 30 Rock.
And again, I know that like, yes, it's just very few people and it's just so online. But I think Jamie's right that a lot of people are participating in politics online and learning about things and listening to shows like this and listening to shows like Jimmy's. And this has reverberating effects. Yeah. Even not a real grassroots movement, it depoliticizes people, but it doesn't matter. But like, who gives a shit though if you're getting YouTube views, right? And if you're trending on Twitter, I mean, that's really what this all comes down to. There are some people who got into this in good faith, but I think it's become such an emotional thing for people where it's all about who am I fighting with? Who am I feuding with on Twitter? Who said something mean about me? And they're being divisive because it's all about an ego thing. And it's extremely disappointing.
And these people have clearly never been to an organizing meeting in their lives. Like, we're allowed to disagree with each other on tactics without saying you don't really want this thing at all. Like, people need to learn those skills, and we need to politically educate the followers while, undermining and isolating demagogues like Jimmy Dore.
A lot of the Jimmy, independent of that, I'm not accusing everybody else who's on the panel with Jimmy because I disagree with their tactic that they don't actually want Medicare for all. Jimmy, I don't think really gives a shit because it's way better for him to have a Democratic Party that's failing and a left that's failing so that he could be the pure one and that everybody else can be shills like AOC, right? But for other people involved in this, I don't doubt the purity of the intentions at first, but it has become such a ridiculously narcissistic fight between personalities. And I would never accuse them of not wanting Medicare for all because I want Medicare for all. I just disagree on strategy. That's what they're doing because they don't agree with.
I think some of these people are too online and, maybe cut their teeth fighting with centrist liberals during the Bernie campaign where it's okay to be a dick to each other because those people are enemies and they're applying that to their comrades now in a way that is not good.
Exactly. They see Democrats, or they see, sorry, Sam, last thing, they see Democrats and other progressives as the singular enemy at this point because that's who they're talking to online, and that's what their politics has become.
Let me just remind you that the fun half is brought to you by iHeartRadio, you and me both. With Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton sits down for a candidate. even do it seriously.
It was- of all the things people have said about me, that's one of the ones that it's ridiculous.
You know what? Maybe later in the week I'll play that clip about, Jimmy went on to say that like I'm getting emails from MSNBC and I'm funded by Clinton or whatnot. I don't know.
Did you guys see that there was a football game being played at the Lockheed Martin Bowl? That's what it was called. That's also a sponsor of our show.
There you go. Yes.
Coincidentally.
Today's program brought to you by Lockheed Martin and Hillary Clinton. The irony is that like I can understand the limitations of and why this wouldn't happen because I don't know and nobody was running, but had Tim Ryan run again for speaker, I would have advocated. I mean, forget leveraging the vote. I would just have voted for Tim Ryan. I mean, I was in favor of putting in somebody who had a weaker control over the caucus, and I've been espousing that for probably a year at this point. But the fact is that I also think that that I do not have a monopoly on the awareness of the inner workings of the House and the perception that different members of the House have as to what is going to have their power or not. Everybody makes compromises in every endeavor that they do in one fashion or another. I wear a collared shirt now 4 days a week. That's not exactly what I would be inclined to do. I'd probably want to wear a soft collared shirt the first 4 days of the week. But I don't. I mean, it's just one of the compromises I make. Jimmy probably doesn't drink all the liquor he wants to on his show. That's one of the compromises you make. You're doing your show. I think he still holds back a little bit. But my broader point is like, look, if there is an assessment, we can trust no one in Congress, but at one point, like you have to trust people. There are members of, who the left consider darlings, who I know have a different, who are perceived differently within the caucuses. Some people on the left are considered to, be not necessarily the most trustworthy of people. And I'm talking about Congress people than others. There's but they play a different role on the inside than they do on the outside. And that doesn't mean that they don't have value to us who are trying to push Congress and, the elected leaders and to the left. That's not necessarily a completely mutually exclusive project from pushing citizens to the left and organizing citizens. There are times where those things intersect a little bit, and there are times when they don't. And but they should both be, they should both be ongoing. But there are different constraints on Congress people than there are on YouTubers, and you don't have to be a genius to understand that. And you don't have to be a genius to understand that, like, look, there's no one to the left of these dozen or so people that are being demonized in Congress. And these are the options. There's not going to be Medicare for all that is going to be developed by a third party. It's going to involve our government and the people who are there. And the question is, how do you get them there?
It's all the same people. It was the Jill Stein cycle in 2016, and it's the Tulsi cycle from last year. And now it's the same nonsense over and over. The same people who are so online and preyed upon by people who truly see politics as emotion. People like Jimmy. But you just kind of got to let it roll off like a duck. But unfortunately, because of Jamie is saying, like, it actually does have an effect on depoliticizing people.
Yeah. And that's a huge, huge problem. And one of the most frustrating things about this is it's not that these squad members are not left enough. I think some of them might even be socialists. I don't know. Like, you primary them, you put in different people. The squad is the same size. You get the same outcome. Like, they are doing what they can. And if you're going to engage in bourgeois politics at all, you have to be smart about it. And you can't be sacrificing all of your political capital for something that is, mostly performative when you have other options like eliminating PAYGO, like getting rid of Richard Neal from the Ways and Means Committee, things that could actually move the ball towards Medicare for all. Obviously, those are things you try first. But again, just because you disagree on a tactic doesn't mean that, one person's good and one person's evil. Like, this is what we do in the movement. This is what we do as organizers. You discuss things, you allow for the fact that you could be wrong, and, you got to listen to other people. But these are all skills that the media does not inculcate in you. And this is one of the reasons I've stayed at DSA, honestly, even as I've become more busy with my, my work in media, because I don't want to lose touch with what it means to actually be an organizer and work with other people and all of these skills that, you don't always get in a field where you get to talk into a microphone and you get attention and instant gratification and money and other things.